Good morning, everyone. It is time for another Monday morning high five. Myself, Richard. We are we're gonna do a lot today. We're gonna talk about Joshua chapter 18 and include chapter 19. Um, so this is the story or the description of the allotting of the remaining land to the remaining tribes. So if you've been kind of counting and following along, there were five tribes that had already received their inheritance. These five, it seems as if they're the five larger tribes, and then there's seven kind of, I guess you would say, smaller tribes um, who have not yet received their land. Um, and it's at the beginning of 18, it tells us the land is subdued. Like the battles have been won, but there's still the action that needs to take place of them actually not finding, but kind of allocating their land. If you notice the description of all the other inheritances, it was always here's the boundaries. So the north boundary, east, west, south, these are the boundaries of this tribe's territory. These last seven tribes had not given or mapped out or come up with what are the boundaries of their territory. Um, and it seems like they were waiting. They just hadn't done it. And so Joshua tells them, go do it. It's like it's time. What are you waiting for? Go, come up with the boundaries, and then God is going to select which territory you get. So they were supposed to kind of proportion seven equal boundaries, territories, and then God would select who received which area. Um, so in chapter 18, we see it gives us the inheritance for the tribe of Benjamin. Then you go into 19, the inheritance for the tribe of Simeon, also the inheritance for Zebulon, the inheritance for Issachar, the inheritance for Asher, for Naphtali, and then for Dan. And then at the very end of chapter 19, Joshua himself is given an inheritance. Um, it says the people of Israel gave an inheritance among them to Joshua, the son of Nun. Um, and so this is kind of the description of the tribes. Each tribe, all 12 tribes, is given an inheritance, and it lists their boundaries. All of that happens in 18 and 19. That's the quick short version, summary version of what's happening in these two chapters. We didn't want to keep going chapter by chapter. We were still are, but you get why. Like it's a lot of these are the boundaries. We talked a lot about it. So, Rich, what do you see in either 18 or 19? Or actually, no,
Um,
I'll
yeah,
start.
yeah, yeah.
Mine was in 18. Yeah, mine was at 18. So in 18, um, the thing that I saw is kind of what I alluded to at the beginning. 18, chapter 18, verse 1 says, the land lay subdued before them. So so all of the major battles have been won. Um, but in verse 3, Joshua is talking to these last seven tribes saying, what is it that you're waiting for? And I thought about it that, you know, sometimes you can have victory, but you don't have possession. You can be promised something, but it's on you to actually take possession of it. God can be saying, it's yours. I love how Richard put it, like you could pray about something, but are you putting in are you putting it putting action behind that prayer? Are you applying? Are you, going to take, are you putting any action behind what you have prayed for, what God has promised? Um, there is a process to how God does it. A very interesting process that he's fought all the major, like he won the land. The land is Israel's. There's, if you have been reading along with us, there were still um some small areas that it was their responsibility to clear out completely, but the people knew they were defeated. It was just a matter of, you need to go in and take possession.
Yeah.
And I thought about that in our lives today, that there are areas that God is saying, I fought the battle, like you have the victory. I've given you victory.
Yeah.
You are victorious. The Bible goes to great lengths to talk to us about, you are more than a conqueror. You overcome every situation, but there's just times it doesn't feel like it to us. It
Yeah.
just, and it doesn't tell us exactly why these seven tribes were hesitating. Um, you could speculate that maybe they were smaller, and so they were just like, well, you know, the big tribes, yeah, of course they would go, and if there was some people there, like, yeah, we got it, like we're big. But
Yeah.
these small, it doesn't really say, but for whatever reason, the smaller tribes were dragging their feet to actually take possession. And I think sometimes we're guilty of that too. And what makes it so ironic is that it's already yours.
Yeah.
Like it's yours. Like it's not just because the people were there, it doesn't mean that it was their land. It's your land. It was promised to you. God, came in and defeated all the enemies. It's your land. You just have to take possession of it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, such a great point, man. I think, a lot of time, like you brought out, it's just there's things that, we're praying for, we're asking God for, and God does his part. He does what he's supposed to do.
right.
But we also have a role. God, you
Yes.
can you can be praying for, like, just example of a job, where you don't have any resources, and you're like, praying like, God, I need a job, I need a job. And if you just sit there and wait at home, like that, it can, but it's probably not. Like, are you gonna apply? Are you gonna fill out the application? Are you gonna go up there? Like, that's you taking possession of kind of what you're praying for. Um, and that's, yeah, just a great point that you brought out, like just how they were just, it was theirs, but they didn't claim it. They didn't. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, what I saw was at the end of 19, just where Joshua receives his inheritance. And I thought it was just interesting the way you have, like, the leader who has been allocating land for everybody else. Like, you get this, you get that, and he's doing all this. And then at the end, it didn't even say like he chose his inheritance, but it said the people of Israel gave an inheritance among them. So it seems like they almost took some of theirs to give to Joshua. Um, and it just, it's, for most of us, or most people nowadays, as a leader, you usually set aside yours first, right? If
Yeah.
if we're going to be allocating land, all right, let me see, what's the best land. All right, I'm gonna get that land. All right, so everybody else, you can, I'll give you yours, but this is mine. Just that
Right.
process of, kind of setting yours apart before, serving God's people, before helping God's people. Um, we see here Joshua, he didn't do it that way, the normal way that most people would do it. But he allocates everybody else's land first, and then the people gave inheritance among them to Joshua. It says, by command of the Lord. they gave him the city that he asked. So it was, it seems like it was at the end where he was just like, I'll take that city, and the people like, yeah, like for what you've given us, like, yeah, you can have that. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting, just that structure, the way it was done. Um, yeah,
Yeah, no, I think it, it's I guess that's when God is orchestrating, when he's in the mid the it working the process, there doesn't have to be, there really shouldn't be any fear of anyone missing out. Like everyone's gonna be taken care of. And like you
hmm
said, maybe that's Joshua knew, like I don't have to, okay, let me go first before we run out of like y'all ain't gonna take care of me. Like, no, like because all of this is taking place in front of God. Like at the
right,
very end, they're in front of the tent of meeting with God. So
hmm
God is in the process at every step. He's obtained all the victory, and now
hmm
he's the one who is choosing which tribe, where everyone's inheritance will be. And
yeah,
so there, if God is involved, even if Joshua didn't trust the people, he should be able to trust God. That
yeah,
God's gonna take care of me. God knows I need someplace, he
yeah,
knows what my needs are. He is going to take care of me. Like
yeah,
he's not gonna have me like everyone else has their territory, they're all happy, and you know, Joshua's in the tent outside of the tent. Like I didn't. I really should have picked some land. I didn't think this through at all. Like God
yeah,
is going to take care of everyone, including his, the person who has done all of that work for him.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, even if you think about it, to like the priests, they didn't have a dedicated land, but God
right,
still said He was going to take care of them. So
right,
it's also kind of like maybe even if Joshua didn't, get land, like he could still be taken care of. The same way the
absolutely,
priests, are. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Anything else?
I think that's pretty much it for me. Anything else?
Yeah. Um. No, it's just we've said it before. It's just it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see how you move from promise to possession. You
Yeah,
know, like that's it. In some ways, you almost look at this like, well, why is it? You could have just skipped from they won all the battles to whatever is next, but the Bible includes all of this to show that there really is a process from you can be promised something, but to actually have possession of it, like even in that, God is like there is a process. There's a role that you have, like you said, God has a role, but you
yeah,
also have a role. And if you are, kind of like lackadaisical or just uncertain and "Well, I mean, yeah, I know, but the, like God is still going to do what he is supposed to do, what he has promised to do,
hmm
but that process of possession, it's I know we probably over time, but if you go back to when they were at the Jordan and
hmm
refused to cross because there were giants, it's almost the same. Like you had the promise even back then,
yeah,
and just wouldn't take possession.
yeah,
So it's just so it's fascinating. Like, but I think. it really does speak to even us today. Like we can look at them and go, man, they were crazy, but it's very similar to us. Like there's some things, maybe even though you're seeing it, even though you know it should be real to you, sometimes certain things just I don't think I could do it. I just
Yeah.
I know what God said, but I don't see it. I don't think I could do it. So
Yeah. I was just listening to sorry, he was talking about like Jeremiah and about how when God called Jeremiah, like one of the first things Jeremiah said was, I'm too young.
mhm,
And it's like, yeah, you are, but I've called you. Like I created you, I formed you. Like I know
mhm,
your limitations. Like I know what you can and can't do. Like I wouldn't ask you to do something you cannot do. Um,
right,
and he says something like I'm too young and I'm not like basically didn't have the experience. And it's like God knows that. He created you, He made you.
right,
And just how we sometimes like the promise, we start to throw God our excuses and why it can't happen instead of believing God for what He said.
right.
Um, but yeah, it just made me think about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess the our encouragement is 18, 19 is to just, as much as you have to trust God in the battle, you have to trust God in the possessing, in the process, like
Yeah,
trust God the whole way. Like be confident in God the whole way. If you will walk up and fight giants, believing God is with you, like then you can follow through the whole process. So
yeah.
yeah. All right. Yeah, we gotta go. Thank you all for watching. If God says the same, we'll be back next Monday. We appreciate your support, your comments,
Yes.
all of that. And we really hope that you are kind of reading through these chapters yourself. It's nice if you watch us, but we would really want you to look at it for yourself,
Right.
see what you see in it, because you know as good as Rich is, he doesn't see everything. So,
Come
like,
on,
there's
man.
still some there that you
Knock it
can see.
off.
As good as I am, there's still something there. Like, just we want you to see it for yourself. So, thanks for joining us. If God says the
Yes.
same, we'll be back next week on Monday.